That's right, more Last of Us talk, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I wasn't actually going to do a spoiler video on The Last of Us. Last of Us is still on my mind though, so I figured, well, there's enough to talk. I apparently, my brain wants to talk about it. And yeah, still rocking the apocalypse stubble because that's still necessary, and I figured, let's just do the leather jacket thing too. Because if it was the apocalypse, I guess I would dress like this. Yep, leather jacket, stubble, firefly shirt. So yeah, that's a spoiler warning. If you haven't beaten The Last of Us, I suggest you watch my spoiler-free review of The Last of Us. This is for folks that have beaten the game or just don't care about spoilers. And I'm not gonna go detail by detail through the game. There are a few points though that are worth talking about that are spoilers. The first point being the entire plot of the game is you have to escort Ellie to this group called the Fireflies because Ellie is immune to this whole parasitic thing that turns people into husks. She got bitten like 2 weeks ago. She still hasn't turned. She breathes spores in, nothing. So the concept is like, all right, she can cure the world. One of the cooler interactions in the entire game is you come across these two dudes, they're brothers, and they're actually likable people. I mean, they leave you to die, but the guy does bring up a good point. It's like, if the roles were reversed, you wouldn't have just taken off and left us there. No, you would have. And you're like, yeah, I would have. The game does a good job at showing you perspective. It's like, yeah, all right, maybe someone did something that's a dick move, but they're just trying to survive, same as you. Few people, though, you're like, no, you're just a dick. There are absolutes in the world. Hitler was just an asshole. You can't always go, all right, perspective. And then the younger brother turns and he attacks Ellie, and then the older brother kills him, and the older brother kills himself. It's one of those moments where you're like, that was dark. And even Joel has this look on his face when the older one blew himself away. Joel's like, ugh. Joel's a pretty hardened human being. He comes across as a person that, well, that wouldn't affect him, right? Nope, he had this look on his face like, that shit's fucked up. Because it was, and then you move on. That's one of the things this game does well, is it shows you that when you come across people, you interact with people probably as a means to an end. The fact that you're interacting with them means you're probably trying to get something out of them, and in exchange, they're trying to get something out of you, and you all understand that, and you roll with it, because you're like, I understand. Optimism has been stamped out through 20 years of dealing with assholes, douchebags, and zombie husk people. Except for Ellie, she's mankind's last hope. Because she's gonna cure the world, because, you know, we're gonna make that decision. My favorite chapter in this game, I didn't think it would be my favorite chapter, because usually in games I'm like, oh, winter. All right, let's get back to spring. But the most monumental chapter in terms of character growth for Ellie is winter. Winter's awesome, winter's dark, winter is coming. No, winter came, friends. No White Walkers, but it was still bad news. Chapter before this, Joel gets impaled, he's in bad shape, and Ellie's out there, and Ellie has become an efficient hunter. Like, the first thing you see is this rabbit, and this arrow goes through the rabbit, and Ellie picks up the arrow, and she's like, oh, that's not gonna be enough. It reminded me of Castaway, when you see the fish, and a spear goes through, and it pans up, and you see Tom Hanks, he's all tropical Jesus now. He's a man of the woods, you can tell he's become really efficient at survival. Ellie has hit that point now, you're like, yeah, that kid really stepped up, and now she is just keeping them alive. Ellie plays a little differently than Joel. She can't hold people up and use them as human shields, but it's awesome doing that stealth kill where she comes up behind people, starts stabbing their neck, you know, you're like, ah, well, you know, dead folk. That picture right there is one of those pictures I didn't want to show in my review, my spoiler-free review of the game, because I saw it and I was like, I didn't want to know that Ellie becomes that badass. Yeah, you see her with a rifle on the cover, sure, but a bow and arrow is a different thing entirely. Bow and arrow means you're now efficient in the apocalypse. So I show it to you now. Best picture ever. And you come across this one guy, David. You don't really know what to make of David. All you know is he's voiced by Nolan North, which is a lie. I didn't actually know that until the end credits, but at the time, he seems like an okay person. He gets you out of a couple of tight spots, and you're like, all right, you're building rapport with this guy, and then he's like, funny thing, there's this madman out there, and he's just killed a lot of us, and rumor is he's palling around with this little girl. You know anything about that? You're like, oh shit. Ellie grabs her bow and arrow, and she's like, all right, back up. And yeah, David's like, stay with us and you'll live, but if you leave, we're probably gonna hunt you down. And of course, Ellie's loyal to Joel, so she's like, yeah. And you leave, and you know you're gonna see this guy later on. But this guy captures Ellie, and you can tell he's kind of conflicted by it, like, look, we're all trying to survive, just hang with us, man. She breaks his finger, which is also another sweet scene, because he wants her name, and she won't tell him. So she's like, Ellie, tell him my name is Ellie. And that's the name of the girl who broke your fucking finger. That was about when I was like, this might be the best character in a game, period, in 2013. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. This band of post-apocalyptic douchebags, yeah, they're cannibals. People do what they need to do to survive in the apocalypse, and well, these folks chose their path. Probably tastes like chicken. So Ellie escapes the Donner Party, and there's this whole showdown in this building. This building's burning, and Ellie gets the drop on this guy and just starts beating his head in with this machete. I mean, this dude's dead. Then Joel finds her, and it's this big moment where it's Yeah, Ellie was through some bad shit in winter. So spring comes, and at this point, Joel's making small talk with Ellie. You can tell Joel has accepted Ellie as family. But now Ellie's really distant, because it's like that shit that happened in winter. It's permanent damage. Yeah, she's probably not the same person after that. Well, that all just sucked. And then the end of the game comes, and this is this situation. You find the fireflies. Joel wakes up, and the chick you met near the beginning of the game is like, oh, hey, we have Ellie. We're prepping her for surgery. And Joel's like, can I see her? And she's like, no, you can't. We're not going to draw this out. We're prepping her for surgery. And we need to harvest the shit from her brain. She's gonna die. But just stay in the cell and, oh, if he tries to move, shoot him. Sorry. Immediately, you understand where they're coming from, but you have a problem with it. Because they're about to kill Ellie. We can't have that shit stand. Yeah, it might save the human race, but hey, there's always next time. So Joel goes on a rampage and just wipes out all these people, grabs Ellie, and it's awesome. You pick up Ellie, and it's gameplay, and so you're running through, and this tragic music's playing, and you're dodging all these people, and you get her out of there, and you have a face-off with the main chick, and the chick's like, this could save humanity. She's the key to a cure. Joel's like, no, bam, shoots her in the head. A lot of people have a problem with this ending, like Joel became a villain, but the game spent about 16 hours establishing that, yeah, there are people that do dark things in this world, but it's their perspective. They do what they feel they need to do to survive. Yeah, it might have been a selfish thing for Joel to do to save Ellie, but anyone playing the game didn't hesitate to agree with him initially. Everyone wiped out everyone with the mindset, I gotta save Ellie. Everything you found, all the information, all it told you was that it's possible that they could make a cure with this. Is it a certainty? Is it a definite? No, it's not. So it's not the kid will die, but the human race will be immune to this parasite. It's the kid will die, and the human race might be immune, but might not. You feel like so much research would have to go into studying this, understanding it, trial and error, but there were no certainties, friends, and well, we've kind of adapted to the world as it is. I don't know, maybe I'm being an asshole. Maybe I'm making excuses. I guess I would have doomed the human race myself. Spock would argue me and tell me the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And I'd be like, you're probably right. That being said, let's save Ellie, you robot. The game's a personal journey with Joel. Joel and his connection with Ellie. Ultimately, he grew as a person. He accepted family. He had walled that off years ago. This girl cracked through and he's like, oh, I still have that in me to be human. Now that I've accepted that, that compromises my ability to have these people kill her and possibly synthesize a cure. It's give and take right there, but the story being a personal journey, I'll be like, well, I'll go with personal growth over curing the human race in a game, I guess. You did too, don't even lie. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, Joel's an asshole and he doomed the human race, but if you were in his position, in his shoes, in that situation, could you really have let her die? Could you have done that? That is tough. I would have been like, look, Ellie, they were gonna kill you because killing you is the only way to synthesize a cure, and I stopped them. I wiped them all out. If you still want to do this, I'm sure at this little safe haven that we're going to, they have a medical team in which they could probably do the same thing. But they were assholes about it, so I slaughtered them. But he lies to her and he's like, oh no, there's a lot of people that are immune and yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. The human race is still screwed. And at the end, she's like, tell me you were telling the truth. And Joel's like, yeah, I was telling the truth. She's like, okay. And that's where it ends. I still wish they showed a little more in the end of the game. But in the end, it's just kind of, okay, credits. This is me literally nitpicking. It's not like that ending compromises anything. It's not like it wasn't a good ending. I'm just saying if they could show a little more, I would have been like, oh, that's better. But for the game and the vibe it's had for the past 16 hours of gameplay and what it is, the ending does fit the game. It's a good standalone game. If this is the only Last of Us game that we get, I'd be like, awesome. We have ourselves a sweet masterpiece. No need for a franchise. But I heard that they made this for the sake of building a new franchise in which we're going to get more. It's not like the abrupt ending of this game is just the last we'll ever see of these characters. All right, so The Last of Us and the ending and the spoilers and all the good shit. If you're still around, that means you don't care about spoilers or you have played the game. What did you think about all of it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.